Well, I think I've just found a new level of pain. Trying to watch an action comedy where the only funny parts are how bad the choreography is in some of the scenes. What's up guys, Mason the Brock Henderson here. So we're continuing on with our DC movies with Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. I'm calling it Birds of Prey, I don't give a shit. Yeah, so this one was rough. I'd probably compare it to a combination of The Marvels and She-Hulk. The Marvels in that is constantly every one of these main characters praising each other for how badass they are. And then it's like She-Hulk because every man in it is either an idiot or an asshole. Or crazy in the case of Zaz. And I have to ask the same question that I did when I was watching She-Hulk, which is, do they not know who their target audience is at DC? I mean, yeah, there are obviously women who watch comic book movies as well, but do they really think that's their main demographic? If I had to guess for Marvel and DC, I would say probably 75 to 25% split. I could be wrong. Maybe the focus groups have pointed out otherwise and I've just missed that memo, but it feels weird to have a movie that, once again, similar to She-Hulk, is all about talking about how women are amazing and men suck. That's the whole point of the movie, it feels like, or at least parts of the movie. And I don't understand that. It's like making a chick flick that talks about how women are shallow and petty. Chick flicks know what their target audience is. They would not make fun of that target audience. That's what both She-Hulk and this movie feels like they do. Kind of blows my mind a little bit that that's what they went with, but whatever the case, I guess first I'll talk about the one good thing that came out of this movie, which is I do think the set work was probably some of the best. Well, I did point out the choreography in the fight scenes was pretty poor. A lot of slow movement, a lot of people swinging at nothing. One guy literally shot up into the air for some reason. Like, the fighting choreography was not good, but the sets that they had to fight on were a lot of fun. It did set up for some entertaining fight scenes, even if they were very poorly done. So we'll give them that, but I think that's about the only thing I can praise. Everything else, I don't even know what to say for most of it. And first of all, the acting, a lot of it felt like it was silliness turned up to 11. For some of these actors and actresses, this is probably the weakest performance I've seen out of them. They all felt like they were acting like memes, to be honest. I really liked Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn in the original Suicide Squad movie. She was one of the few good things about it. And this one, I don't know, it felt like she was really forcing her performance. Ewan McGregor, I mean, the character itself didn't lend him much to work with because it felt like they told him to act like a man-child, and that's exactly what he did. Problem is, that's supposed to be your main threat. And man-childs, man-children? What's the proper plural for that one, I wonder? I'm gonna go with man-children. Man-children are not intimidating. Yes, he has an army, and that's what makes him slightly more intimidating, but it's not an interesting villain to watch. He's so simplistic. Honestly, a lot of these characters are. You look at Montoya, I've seen Montoya be a badass in other forms of DC. This one was just so bland. She's older, she's even described as basically an 80s cop drama type of cop. Her whole thing is just about the fact that she gets looked over because she's a woman. That's it. Although I did find it funny that Harley Quinn is able to take out this whole room of cops. She's able to take out all of these henchmen, no problem. But a drunk Montoya who could barely catch her earlier in the movie, now all of a sudden is able to go one-on-one with her. Like, they didn't want Montoya to seem like a badass earlier on, so they made her look kind of pathetic in the chase scene with Harley. And then later in the movie, they're like, no, now Montoya's got to be a badass because she's going to be working with Harley. So now she's able to fight Harley one-on-one while she's drunk. Right. Black Canary in this one could have been better if they fleshed her out a little bit more. All they really gave her was that she's a singer who's not respected by Sionis, and then whenever he sees her fighting, decides to make her his driver for some reason. And she's kind of going back and forth between helping Sionis or helping the cops get this kid back. But unfortunately, there just wasn't much depth there for her. I think she was probably the most interesting character in the movie, but outside of one line from Montoya talking about her mom and what her mom did before, we didn't really get much about her. So she was one I wish we had gotten a little bit more on, to be perfectly honest. I wish the movie had been more so focused on the Birds of Prey than Harley Quinn, because also Huntress, I think there was something there too. She's on this revenge quest. She wants to kill all these people that were responsible for her family's death. That's kind of interesting. Unfortunately, they just turned her into basically a joke, where her whole thing is she gets angry all the time. And on top of that, it's Mary Elizabeth Winstead. You could make her cool and badass, but instead, like I said, she's a joke. She's trying to practice her "do you know who I am" over and over again, trying to sound more and more intimidating. She screams a lot. there's just not much funny about that. And as much as they want to talk about how badass each of them are, I wish we could have just seen that. I wish they would have just showed it. We obviously got some fight scenes where they got to show off how they could kick all these guys' asses, but I always feel like it rings so hollow whenever they do something cool and then you have a character be like, oh, that was so cool. To me, that's the writers or the director, somebody feeling insecure and going, well, we need a character to say that it was cool or else the audience won't think it's cool. We have to tell them that it's cool. And if they don't think it's cool, then it's their problem. They're the problem, not us. We made it look cool. We even told them it was cool. And on that note, I will also say so much exposition. The first part of this movie is front loaded with exposition. I mean, you've got Harley doing the narration in the background, basically kind of doing a Deadpool thing, which has already been done to death by the point this movie came out, I'm pretty sure. And every single time somebody does it, it's never as funny as Deadpool. A couple of moments that stood out to me is just not being that funny. First of all, in her opening narration, she's talking herself up when we're clearly seeing the opposite is happening. You know, like, oh yeah, Joker was all messed up about it, but I handled it fine. And obviously we're seeing her crying, we're seeing her get thrown out of the house. For me, that joke's just been done to death. Honestly, The Emperor's New Groove did that joke better. But then you've also got the narration saying something and then one of the characters repeating it because she sees the gasoline truck, she sees Ace Chemicals, and she narrates, I always have my best ideas drunk. And then she says, I have the best idea. That's not funny. So unfortunately, a lot of those jokes just didn't land. And on top of that, it's weird to go from narration to also having weird fourth wall breaks. It felt like they should have picked one or the other. Either she's narrating from the future and telling us how all this stuff happened, or she's breaking the fourth wall like Deadpool. But she did a bit of both. So it felt like it was very unfocused in that sense. Talking about unfocused, the start of this movie was all over the place. And again, I know that's supposed to be part of the joke, like, oh, she's so crazy, she can't keep her story straight, so she's going back in time, then forward in time, then back in time, then forward. But for the audience, it's so confusing. Because now we're trying to keep up with 3 different stories going on at the same time while you're jumping back and forth. On top of that, you've got this really random moment that just comes out of nowhere, where Sionis is smacking her around, and all of a sudden we see her start dancing with all the guys. And I'm assuming this is supposed to be a peek inside of her head to show us the crazy side of her. You know, she's getting the feeling of being, I guess, wanted again, or I don't know, like she seems to thrive off of this abusive relationship similar to what she had with Joker before, I think, is what they're trying to show. But it just came out of nowhere. And then we never get that again. We don't reference it. We don't talk about it. We don't ever have a breakaway where we see inside of her head again. That was it. Just that one moment. Like I think about if we had gone to maybe one of the fight scenes, like the one in the funhouse. If we show her side of things and maybe we do cut to now she's dancing with all of these guys as she's taking them down. That could be how she sees the world at times. It would be an interesting view inside of her head, but we don't get that ever again. It's just there and then it's gone. It feels very odd. But I guess sticking on the main story, it's very simple. There's nothing deeper here. It's just this pickpocket steals a diamond. Everybody wants her because Sionis puts out this bounty on her. Harley's trying to get her. Montoya working with Canary is trying to get her. Huntress is trying to kill Zsasz, who's working for Sionis, who wants the girl. So it all just sort of coincides in this one place. And then that leads to a fight scene. That leads to them killing Zsasz and Sionis into the story. And to be honest, by the end of the movie, not much has changed. Like Harley is now on her own. She does feel more confident without Joker. We do see Montoya teaming up with Canary and with Huntress to form the Birds of Prey. But honestly, what changed about those characters? Like Montoya just steps down as a cop to become a vigilante. Huntress, she wanted to kill all the people responsible for her family's death. She did. That's it. Canary, I guess now she's fighting out on her own. She doesn't feel like she has to be a singer at a club anymore. What does this have to do with anything? The only one that really feels different from beginning to end is Harley. And even then, it's not really like she's a different character or changed character. She just is finally free of the Joker. Finally feels like she doesn't need him anymore to be her own person. So yeah, unfortunately, there just wasn't really much here. The writing doesn't do these actors any favors either. Just kind of a bland time. I wasn't really laughing. I'm trying to think. There were a couple of scenes that I did want to talk about. I'm trying to see if I can remember them all now. Because the two that stand out that I do remember. First of all, Harley driving the gas tanker into Ace Chemicals. Didn't realize Ace Chemicals had become a firework factory, but apparently that's a thing now. Sorry, that's complete sarcasm. Yeah, there shouldn't be fireworks at a chemicals factory. Doesn't make sense. You've also got the moment whenever Harley and Cass are at her place. So it's very rushed editing, but we see her go talk to Doc. Then she goes upstairs with Cass. Suddenly Huntress comes in to talk to Doc. We get her backstory, cuts back to her. She's asking about where to find people. And the next thing we know, she's at Sionis' club. He's doing this weird threatening of this woman. Then we cut back to Harley's place. There are cops at her door, just out of nowhere. A guy shoots a bomb into her building, which somehow doesn't kill the hyena. He just gets away and Harley finds him at the end. But the explosion happens and she just goes outside. What happened to the cops at her door? The guy that threw the bomb in, what, did he just drive away after he did that? Did nobody want to confirm that she was dead? And Doc is just leaving because somebody gave him money to tell them where she was, I guess? It just feels very rushed and out of nowhere. Also, another weird moment where Harley kicks Montoya out of a window and she comes climbing back through the window. How? At the end, when Harley has climbed on top of Sionis' car, she's wrestling Cass away from him. She sees the car's about to crash, and instead of grabbing Cass and trying to pull her out, she just jumps out herself, leaves Cass to crash and die in the car, I guess, even though it seemed like she wanted to try to save her. But what's so funny is she leaps from the moving car, driving at very high speeds, no scrapes or anything. Like, her arms would be absolutely shredded, and didn't see a single scratch on it. Yeah, I think that's about it. There's just unfortunately a lot about this movie that didn't really work for me. I could definitely tell that there was attempts at humor throughout it, but unfortunately none of it was landing. Harley dropping her sandwich and the dramatic music that comes after that, not really that funny. Again, her jokes in the narration or in the fourth wall breaks, not really funny. But that'll do it for me. So with all that being said, cue the outro. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that review. I hope you enjoyed it. First and foremost, please leave your thoughts in the comments down below. I love having discussions with people, so whatever your thoughts were, whether you agree or disagree with me, please leave them down below. Obviously, no spoilers. Also, if you did find yourself enjoying this review and you want to see more, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out. I also have a gaming channel as well as a channel where I talk about soccer, so if you want to give those a follow as well, that would be much appreciated. And lastly, if you want to help me improve upon the quality of these channels, I do have a Patreon. All of this is in the description below. With all that being said, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to y'all later. Peace out.